What's happening, people? Welcome to another edition of Politricked. Wow, here on the Got What You Need Network. Of course, I'm your host, Sky. Hope everybody's doing well. Just a few things to, to discuss today. I haven't been as active because things are changing so quickly. And in some cases, by the time I recorded a pod, something else has trumped, for lack of a better word, those things that I've discussed or whatever, man. I just never seen this country in such a mess. We've been divided before, especially with the Iraq War. We've been divided over, police killings and different stuff like that, or what have you, man. We've been divided over roles of athletes, and, some feel like when they don't say things that they don't agree with, or they say things that they don't agree with, then they should just shut up and dribble or shut up and run the ball or whatever. But once again, I've just never seen it this way. And I don't even think it's like a even divide. I think a lot of people that voted for this foolery are having second thoughts, and many more of them are even having third thoughts, but just are too embarrassed to speak up because they would have to admit what they voted for. And see, what they voted for was pain for you, thinking that it wouldn't affect them. I can't count how many different ethnic groups boldly push their people to support him, and now he's actively targeting them. I read a report that in Florida, I believe they're rounding up Venezuelans and Cubans. And anybody know the Cuban population in Florida is staunchly Republican. And for him to be, targeting them, it's laughable, and I'm not enjoying anyone's pain, but I won't waste an ounce of sympathy or empathy or anything like that for people that were okay with others feeling the pain and them being spared. And now that it's not that way, now it's this, why me? Why they do this to us? I didn't know it was going to be this way. I was deceived, and all of this type of stuff or whatever. So once again, man, I won't be, hey, man, they didn't know what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing. They just didn't predict that the outcome would affect them adversely so quickly. They thought that they would be busy on social media teasing black and brown people, and owning the other liberals and progressive that supported them. And they're finding out that nope. Unless you're wealthy, like he has, and this is the thing, unless you're wealthy or you have a company with influence or you in some position of power, he doesn't need you. You could wear all the red hats, you could put all the flags and all the bumper stickers, you could ride around in your city and play tough and harass people on the roads and all that kind of stuff. But if you get anything, and I mean anything, from the government, it'll be coming for you too. And I'll give you an example. There's 5 U.S. farmers, along with a slew of nonprofit groups that are suing the Trump administration for the cuts they made to these Biden grants, and they want them restored. See, this is how this breaks down, right? When the announcements were that SNAP and food stamps and different stuff like that was going to be cut, people were kind of like, they need to work anyway. How do people on food stamps eat better than me? And da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, all of this, all right? And everybody seemed to be, I won't say cool with it, but they were lukewarm to it, let's say, because it fit the narrative of, all the people in the cities in these projects and in these apartment complexes are abusing the food stamp program and the SNAP program, and these things need to end. And like I said, people didn't really make that much of a fuss. And the fact that we want people to starve is just crazy, but I digress on that. Yet, when we find out that now, because we don't need certain items produced, your cheese, the eggs, and the different things that were coming from these different farms in the Midwest who are getting these government grants to produce these things, then there's no need for the grants. And you see how it trickled back the other way. And these farmers were getting 10 and 50 times as much money as the people that most of society complains about when they talk about, my tax money this and my tax money that. But the welfare that these farmers get is cool. And it's just ironic that now they're complaining and suing Trump for him to restore programs that Biden put in place. Yet these same farmers voted for Trump. It's like you want all the programs and all the help, but you just don't want anyone to know about it. Like when it reminds me when you have congressional representative from rural districts where they are a heavy recipient of SNAP, welfare, and food stamps or whatever, but then they get on the floor of Congress and talk about all this waste and all of this type of stuff, and they never do any reflection. They never say, and we need to get people in my own district back to work and out of their homes and different stuff like that. Because deep down inside, they feel like the people in their district deserve this stuff. But the people that don't look like them don't. Like the people in their district, they need a hand up. They just going through a hard time or whatever. But then the people that don't look like them, they're lazy. They need to, pull themselves up by the bootstraps and get out here and earn it. And it's just amazing how the distribution of the same monies is scrutinized so different based on the recipient of it. So, like I said, I'll keep you posted on where this lawsuit goes or what have you, man. But like I said, the fact that we were okay with it when we thought that it was just taking a few $100 a month food stamps from needy families. But now that there's a trickle back effect going back to the farmers and larger entities, Now, people want to start lawsuits and this. I would have had more respect if you had fought, you had spoke out for the people you were supplying, not just based on, oh my God, I'm going to lose the farm or what have you. So it is what it is. GOP town halls are being either canceled or restricted, and we ain't going to touch on this too much. Just to point out, it's just amazing how people grandstand on TV, grandstand on the floor, on the House floor, but yet when they go back into their districts, they don't want to meet with their constituents. And those that are going back to scheduling town halls are doing it in a way to where you have to pretty much prove that you're a Trumper. And they really check like your voting history and things of that nature before they allow you in. And this thing of living in, like, these people that choose or are trying to establish an echo chamber for themselves so that they don't have to listen to criticism is dangerous. My thing is, stand on what you voted for. Stand on what you represent, and stand on the things that you get on TV, on these political talk shows, and say. Stand on the things that you get on Twitter, and say. And go back into your district and explain why you did what you did. Like that's my thing. You can I think you can explain, or at least attempt to explain, like, hey, I know you're upset now, but I feel like what I voted for will have a positive outcome in the long run. But the reason that they can't do that because they know it not to be true. And, people say, well, why are they doing this if they're hurting their own constituents? Because they're getting kickbacks, and them and their families are going to be fine. So they don't care, All they want to do is avoid tough questions, avoid their constituents, and just keep collecting these kickbacks and sending their kids to private schools and going on vacation and living a life that congressional representatives just maybe 10 years ago couldn't dream of. But it's so much dark money being funneled into Congress that it's like, hey, let them cry, let them whine. I'm getting rich while they're on social media, or while they're emailing me, or while they're calling me, or whatever, and they really don't care. All they care about is their bottom line. And there's people on both sides who feel that way. And I'm going into the Senate with Chuck Schumer and those 9 idiots. They same thing. Chuck Schumer can sit here and get on these talk shows and try to explain that he would have had to explain why the government was shut down or whatever. But then you voted for stuff that's only going to hurt people, like really going to hurt your constituents the most. So it was pain either way. And my whole thing is, why not let Donald Trump and the House Republicans own the shutdown and have to work their way out of it? The payments that you're talking about stopping are going to stop anyway, because they're looking to stop them all together. And I feel like them helping pass that bill and the guys of keeping the government open with all those crazy cuts or whatever is going to be very detrimental to this country. And like everything, people wait for everything to hit the fan, and then they want to go and protest, and they want to go march and now they want to be mad or whatever when you could have just did the easy thing and just had voted for the more sensible candidate. But no, people like couldn't do that, couldn't, get themselves to do that. So they wanted to vote with vote with their race and vote with their racism and their discrimination or whatever, and just hope that things turned out different. And those that are like, looking for former Senator Harris to do anything, hey man, all y'all had to do was hire her. You don't get to tell her that she's not good enough to run this country, but then want to call her out because she is chilling right now, enjoying a private life. She don't owe this country anything. She wasn't any of the celebrities that was asking for Biden to step down. She wasn't Chuck Schumer, who went to his house, and Nancy Pelosi and all these different people. She didn't do any of that. And I think she ran a pretty damn good race. I thought it would be hard for her to win, but, I was with it. I voted for her, and I thought that even with any of her, let's say, quote-unquote negatives, it wasn't worth going back to another Trump term. But here we are, and we'll see. Elon Musk, man, he's having a really, really, really bad time right now. He has lost $121 billion of net worth just since January. Tesla stocks are down 49% in China. Tesla stocks are down 76% in Germany. And I also want to say, man, I like to see dude, squirm a little bit, but y'all do know that, like, when y'all actually are, like, bombing Tesla dealerships or vandalizing vehicles, that you're committing a crime, right? Like, I'm with, trying to bring a company down that wants to belittle people that look like me, that want to minimize people that look like me, and all of that kind of stuff. But we can't do that like breaking the law. You understand what I'm saying? Like, once again, like I said, I'm not going to go as far as what these idiots on TV are trying to say and like, oh, this is terrorism or anything like that. But it is vandalism, and depending on how much damage is done, it could rise up to a felony. So I just think that we need to be, well, not we, because I ain't out there, but y'all need to be careful with that. Once again, if you choose to protest, you protest. I get it, or whatever, but damaging property is just, I think, a step too far. But it gets worse. Ross Gerber, CEO of Gerber Kawasaki Wealth, and he owns over 250,000 shares of Tesla, has asked the board to ask Elon to step down. Says enough is enough. The losses are becoming too much, and they don't think that this is just an anomaly, and they don't think that they feel like as long as he stays on, it's just going to get worse, and it's going to make it harder and harder to recover. So I think he's probably the largest shareholder of stock that has come out publicly and asked him to resign. So far, we haven't had a response from either him or other shareholders on how they feel in regards to him stepping down. But I'm pretty sure that if this continues and he can't come up with a way to prove that this will end and end quickly, that he won't have any choice but to step down as CEO. We're going to wrap this up with Justin Eichhorn, now former Minnesota state senator. He was charged recently for allegedly soliciting prostitution from a detective posing as a 17-year-old girl. He was the one, or one of the ones, that, he gained national headlines earlier in the same week that he got caught trying to pick up the undercover cop who was posing as a 17-year-old girl. He co-authored a bill in the Minnesota Senate aiming to define Trump derangement syndrome as a mental illness. Yeah. And that's another thing that's dangerous. Like, when you're trying to, like, criminalize words or whatever, like, I think we're doing too much. I think we do too much when we throw around the word anti-Semitic. I think that word is misused a lot. I don't agree with the graduate student from, I believe it's Columbia, that's being illegally held simply because he's speaking out in support of Palestine. I think we're in a very dangerous time when the president could just mobilize like a personal police force to go after people that say things that he don't like. And no matter who the president is, we shouldn't be okay with that. We shouldn't be cool with that, and we should speak out loudly in regards to that, because once again, that's just a dangerous, dangerous precedent to set. But back to Mr. Eichhorn, federal prosecutors charged him with one count of attempted coercion and enticement of a minor to engage in prostitution. He faced a judge for the first time, and he was released from the Hennepin County Jail to federal officials before his appearance in federal court. As of now, he's being represented by a public defender. No. He in the hearing, he was represented by a federal public defender, but then he's just representing him while he hires a private lawyer. I'm just reading this as we go along. It's just surprising that he's still being held, but he's ordered to maintain residence at a halfway house, but will need to remain in jail until a bed is available. So the fact that they insist on having him in custody, I don't know if this is a bail situation, or because it doesn't really say that he's been held without, or that hasn't been determined or anything like that. But it's just crazy that every single time we have somebody to speak out on something that's out of there, or they claim to have these real staunch feelings about things, it always comes back that they've done something either in contradiction to those so-called feelings, or they've done something so morally wrong that it's what were they doing talking about that nonsense anyway? They basically were in no place to be discussing something like that. So Kudos to both sides of the aisle in Minnesota because they both promptly asked for his resignation. And I think a day after his arrest, he obliged. I mean, which he had no choice. They were set to vote to expel him, and he had no support or what have you. So that was going to just be an easy vote to ouster him. In this way, depending on what happens, he can always try to run again sometime in the future, depending on what's the outcome of the case. But if he had been expelled, I don't know what the rules are, but it would have definitely been really, really tough for him to try to regain his seat. I know that's not what he's thinking about or whatever, but every politician, that doesn't like go off to like prison and, and is gone for a long time wants to come back and be redeemed. So we'll see about that. Oh man, that's my time. I want to appreciate each and every one of you who click on and check out each episode of Politricked. I try to address things that are relevant to us versus just talking about things just to get people riled up. We're entering 4 months of some crazy times. And all I can hope and pray is that somehow the so-called checks and balances will be that will do what they're supposed to do and be where they're supposed to be, and just end this nightmare once and for all. But until then, man, we just gonna keep rocking out, keep reporting, and keep informing. All right, don't forget to check out the other great podcasts on this great network. The Black Male Podcast, Talking with E, Life and Love, as well as the Encourage and Inspire Podcast. But you're now tuned in or listening to Politricked. And I'm your host, Sky. Once again, that is my time, and I am out. Peace.